Telecameras 3 and 4 working. Activate radio contact with the outside.
Love, wisdom, abundant life. Live a life filled with meaning, purpose, and a sense of accomplishment.
Can you hear me?
Welcome to the Teachings of Enoch. I'm your host, James Allen. You can contact me, 702-483-7769. That's 702-483-7769. Or online at teachingsofenoch.com. Let's get started with today's message. I'm talking with my guest today, Kim Gaines Eckhart, and she's author of the book Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen, and this is the Teachings of Enoch. Welcome, Kim, to the show. Let's jump right into our topic. And you talk about in your book that came out that we are sexual beings and it's okay. What do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for having me here. And yes, absolutely. I think, we are really surrounded in our culture by some opposing messages. So our sort of popular culture obviously tells us that absolutely we're sexual creatures and that's who we are. And that is a great thing. And in fact, that's sometimes I think the message we get is that that's the most important part of who we are. If we look at advertising or media, entertainment, the sexualized nature of advertising, or particularly of women, is so prevalent that I think we can sometimes get that idea that, sex is it, that's all there is. And so sometimes I think in the Christian or the evangelical culture, there's kind of a reaction to that. And so I think especially for a lot of people growing up, they unintentionally get this message that sex is bad or dirty or something to be viewed with, that our sexuality is something that just hooks us and does bad things to us. So there's a lot of press about things like sexual addiction or problems in the sexual nature of our culture, but not as much about the goodness of it. And it is a gift created by God, and it's a goodness. It's how we've been made in God's image.
And we get a conflicting message from our pop culture. Like you said, one is that it's great, it's the best thing ever, but it's not real. I mean, if you look at the pictures we see in the magazines, they're all photoshopped. I mean, nobody even looks like that. Beautiful girls that we see on the stage, they've got all the makeup and on the TV and the artificial implants and the plastic surgery and the lifestyle lift. So there's that image of the physical that's certainly distorted by our pop culture. And then, like you said, Kim, on the other hand, we have kind of the Christian perspective that, well, we don't a lot of times really know where to fall into things, because we see on the one hand the extreme, and then on the other side of it, we feel like, well, what does God want us to value as far as our sexuality? And so what are some of your thoughts on that? You're a practicing psychologist there in Chattanooga, in the Chattanooga area, and you've been in this field for a while. So what do you see as that balance for the Christian life? Well,
one of the images I sometimes use to talk about sexuality and some of the dichotomies between the opposing kind of viewpoints are, I think about sexuality as this kind of banquet that God has created, this huge feast. And it's a good gift, a good feast. And our culture, I think, sometimes takes that picture and just focuses in on the dessert, right? The chocolate cake at the end of the feast, that it's just that chocolate cake. And not only is it just that chocolate cake, but it's the tasting and the eating of it. Not looking at, it's just the sort of pure ecstasy of eating the chocolate cake. That's it. So how it looks and the experience of just that one piece. And maybe sometimes in the Christian kind of culture, well, I'm not sure what the equivalent would be, but it's a different piece of it when, or a really small piece that's not as focused on taste or whatever. But really, the picture of sexuality is that whole feast. It's sitting with someone you love, with people that you love. It's about connecting and longing for people, longing for intimacy and connection, having that experience sitting with them. I think sexuality it's so much more than just bodily, physical intimacy. It's who we have, how we've been made, male and female, in God's image, how we've been made longing for connection with others, longing to have intimate, real relationships with others, and also with this real need and longing for fruitfulness. I mean, I think to give, to be generative, which, in the most basic, simplistic way, I think we think about, having sex means that you might have children. And absolutely, that's one aspect, and a really important aspect. But I think it means something that's what happens as one part of our sexuality, that part of who we are as sexual beings is making us long for other people and also long to care for and give back and give to others. And I think that's a much more complete picture of who we are as sexual beings than just that kind of chocolate cake eating experience.
I remember listening to Josh McDowell a few years ago, and he said that the most important sexual organ that you have is your mind. And that really struck with me, because a lot of people, I think, they think it's their eyes, and like the scriptures tell us, though, the eyes see, they're never full. And if we're constantly going after, as a culture, the next conquest or that person that looks attractive, it's very empty. And it's not really that other person as we perceive them isn't really what we long for inside, because it's a different person, and we have this image that's made up in our culture of that sexualized person.
Well, I think too, sexuality, in sex in particular, in our culture, we get this picture about pleasure. So focus on pleasure and our own pleasure, self-pleasure, and really the biblical and the Christian picture of sexuality is so much the opposite of that. Not the opposite of pleasure. I mean, and a huge difference from that. I mean, God created us with physically for pleasure, but that it's about self-giving, that it's about giving in love and giving to someone else what they can't give themselves. And everything about our sexuality is about self-sacrificial love. And we think about how the model of Christ for us, giving and constant giving. And when, as a psychologist, so thinking about people that come to me when they're having difficulties in their intimate relationships or in their sexual functioning, so much of it can then be connected to that aspect, and how much it helps when we shift into a focus on what it means to give in relationships, what it means to give in love relationships and physically intimate relationships, instead of looking for ways to get what we need. We're not getting what we need in this way, instead of how we can give somebody else and give the person that we love what they can't give themselves.
Well, I'm talking with Kim Gaines Eckert, and she is author of the book Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. And Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen. This is the Teachings of Enoch. We'll be back right after this.
Like, I remember back when we first got married, and my wife would say to me, "We need to talk." I'd make the mistake of talking. And every time I talk, I get in more and more trouble. Now I have learned, if she says to me, "We need to talk," I do exactly the same thing I do when a police officer walks up to my car window. I look straight ahead, I give short yes and no answers until I find out what I'm being accused of.
Man. All right, peace. I rose into the lot of my local stop and go. I stepped out my Volvo and peered through the window. It was a sight that you commonly see. There was a brother staring at a magazine, but for free. I grabbed my keys as I stepped from the ride. Do a quick book a check, then I start to walk inside. Went in, I checked at the counter. I said, give me $5 on pump 1, it's the brown one. Out the corner of my eye, I start to look at this kid with these magazines. In his hand, the book he was staring at. It had paper ladies in it. Paper ladies in it. I wonder if he was in it to win it. But he was fiending on the fantasy. Fiending on the fantasy. And I said, oh my goodness. And I stepped to him and I said, yo, what's up, my man? And he said, none of your business. So I said, did you know the eyes are the window to the soul of a man, and your spiritual conditions in your hand? A porno magazine is used as a token of temporary satisfaction, worse than crack smoking. You're hooked like a fish on the line, and I ain't lying, this is for real. Let me tell you the deal that you haven't really heard on another level. You're being controlled by the devil. A rebel without a pause, truly on a mission, conditioned by the fact that he can't move without permission. You and I, mankind, he made us from the dust of the earth. Excuse me, man, I need a search. My breath is kinda funky, but the truth of the matter is that the Bible says that you need to renew your mind with the word of God in Romans the 12th chapter. And the devil's like crazy controlling you, you know what I'm saying? If you're just standing right here, you know, read these dirty books and whatnot, and it's all about deception. But yo, check it, man. I'm gonna let you think about this. I need some donuts and milk, man. Submit you later, man. Peace.
My guest on the show today is Kim Gaines Eckert, and she is author of the book Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen. This is The Teachings of Enoch. Kim, the book 50 Shades of Grey has been out a little while. It really hit our culture strong. It went to the top of the book charts, and I remember seeing the book in some of the places that I work on people's desk, and it was kind of hard for me to look at that person in the same light again, you know, in a professional environment. And I've never read the book, so I don't really understand what the draw was. It's not something that really appealed to me. But what does that book say about us as a culture? And you talk a little bit about this in your book, and maybe you can share your thoughts on this.
Sure. Well, you know, I think, the book was huge, right, when it came out in the whole trilogy, and I'm a mom of 4 young kids, and it got dubbed sort of mommy porn, and I would say several of the circles that I'm in, book clubs and various things, had book clubs about that book. And I was really intrigued, and I actually had several conversations just with some mom friends and other women, and I read a lot about that very question, what's the appeal in this book? And, you know, I don't know that there's a simple answer to that, but but I think one of the troubling things about the book is its connection, how much it connects sexuality and sexual arousal with violence and aggression. And it really plays into a lot of kind of old archetypes, honestly. But that in and of itself, I think it speaks to something sad to me for so many women that are buying into that kind of message that something that's erotic and arousing has to be aggressive. I can never get this one conversation out of my head with a friend who, when we were talking about it, she just kind of looked at me as I was asking her, like, what's the appeal? And she just looked at me and she said, it's kind of hot. That, after I read the book, or read enough of the book to write about it, I was even more saddened by that, because the book includes, a virtual rape scene. There's a lot of hard things, and I know people have strong opinions about the book, I guess, on either side. But at the end of the day, that connection of violence and sexuality and arousal, I think, is really damaging, both for men and for women. It's damaging for women to begin to associate sexual arousal, or to continue to associate arousal with that level of aggression. And I think it kind of pushes us way back in how we think about how men and women can relate in equal and in self-giving kind of ways.
Well, it seems too to be a contradiction, because we hear about, domestic violence is wrong, rape is wrong, no is no.
Absolutely.
But then we have a book that seems to encourage those things in a way. From what you're saying, again, I didn't read it, so I don't know. But from what you've said and other people's conversation, it's interesting that we have. I guess everyone is torn inside between that good and evil, and we're not really sure a lot of times which way to go. And for the people of faith, it's really hard, because when you're surrounded by this and these ideas, it's really hard to kind of put our focus in the right message and the right response to, like you said, a loving relationship, a caring relationship where both needs are being felt, and it's something that's a beautiful thing and not just something that's a fad. My guest on the show is Kim Gaines Eckert, and she's author of the book Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. Now, Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen. You're listening to the teachings of Enoch. We'll be back with more after this.
Now, see, in marriage, you just have to learn the rules. And rule number one, if she ain't happy, you ain't happy. Booing it doesn't make it less true. And if she ain't happy long enough, you're going to be unhappy with half your stuff.
I turned on the TV and I don't know what's going on. These boys and these girls are running around with nothing on. They acting real crazy like they ain't got no mom. And then we wonder why that no one knows what's going on. Enrique Iglesias telling me out tonight. Got it caught in my ear, it's telling me it's alright. Rihanna trying to get me underneath the umbrella. You don't know any different, so you sell yourself out. I'm like, nobody told you better, so you just go and give it away. Nobody told you better, so you don't know that you're worth the wait. So you give it and they take it, and you lose it. I'm just saying, you don't have to do it. Don't have to give it. Don't let them take it. I'm just saying. DJ, turn it up. Let me speak on it, man. I just had enough. Little kids, 13, singing about what? Sex on the radio, so they just give it up. The situation here, man, is so messed up. Telling me out tonight. Got it caught in my ear, it's telling me it's alright. Rihanna trying to get me underneath the umbrella. You don't know any different, so you sell yourself out. I'm like, nobody told you better, so you just go and give it away. Nobody
And welcome back to the show. My guest is Kim Gaines Eckert. She is author of the book, Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. And Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen. This is the Teachings of Enoch. Kim, before the break, we were talking about the book 50 Shades of Grey and some of the contradictions in our society and that book, the things that it kind of appeals to in men and women, but yet are kind of the total opposite of what society expects of us. How do the defenders of this type of literature, how do they handle that contradiction?
Sure. Well, in the book, I think the defenders of the book would say it's consensual. She agrees. The girl in the book agrees to it. It says she's going to be participating in this kind of relationship, etc. But regardless of that, I think one of the issues that throughout my book I address several myths that I think we face about sexuality, and one of them is that sexuality shouldn't be talked about, and probably that's one of the most important reasons I wrote this book, because I'm so consistently having conversations with women, both in counseling or at retreats or at other things, where they're saying, I never talked to anyone, or I've never talked to anyone about this, but. And so one of those is about what's okay, what kind of sexual behavior is okay, even within marriage, and what is acceptable versus not acceptable to do. And I think one of the problems with the 50 Shades and the kind of stuff that's out there like that is that connection of blurring of boundaries with sex and power and violence. And so I think for couples, sure, if you as a couple agree, but you really agree, if you both have the ability to speak and say you agree, then I think that's one thing. But often, I think one partner in the couple maybe feels less of a voice, and that's certainly true in that book from what I read from it. And thinking in a couple, what does it mean for each of you to really be for the other person, and thinking about what that means in sexuality. If you're really for the other person, that you're not in it for yourself, if you're in it for the other person, are you really going to be choosing this? Are you really going to be choosing this act, this behavior, this way to express your love for the other person? And I think sometimes we ask the wrong questions. How much can I do? What can I do? Instead of how can I really give and show love to this person in this area, or how can I really demonstrate that kind of self-giving love in my relationship with other people? Because our sexuality is not just what happens in the bedroom. It's who we are as men and women in relationship with other people all the time.
Well, Kim, it's been a fascinating interview. My guest today on the show has been Kim Gaines Eckert, and she is author of the book Things Your Mother Never Told You, A Woman's Guide to Sexuality. And Kim is a licensed psychologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm James Allen, and you've been listening to the Teachings of Enoch.